social science at Jacobs University. This is an experimental new format. We want to inform not only people who are interested in studying at Jacobs University, but also ourselves about what we do in terms of research. Because it turns out some of us are not actually informed about everything we do, and it might be an interesting event. For example, we have Benedikt Freude here, who is studying SMP, is now entering into his second year. We have Emilia and others to whom it might be interesting to see what we actually do, because today we will look at research in the practical context of our study program on 3 levels: faculty, PhD students, and students, and maybe 4 if we count alumni as, oh, third, sorry. I'm so sorry. If we count alumni as an extra category. We will very briefly introduce you to what SMP is and how research comes in the context of the study program. I will do that. And then we will present to you representative projects of research that are ongoing right now, so you have like your hands on the pulse of what's happening, and get an approximation of what real life research looks like in our context. So, Society, Media, Politics is a study program that is very strongly, passionately oriented towards getting students involved in all respects, in the respect of what their future professional activities will be. We want them to be people who take over responsibility in society, that will people who will be taking decisions that have consequences for other people, who have a sense of social responsibility and of engagement, who will be aware of what the social context of what they are doing is on a local level, on a regional, national, and even global level, and people who are able to communicate what they want to other people using modern media, if that is necessary, and who are aware of the political context, of the power relations they are working in. That isn't necessarily a political career, but also can be. But it definitely means that you need to understand where politics are part of the problem and where they are part of the, and can be, should be part of the solution. So being involved then also means that all we do, every little aspect of what we do, is always taken at face value. We have to stand up for what we say. So if we say, let's say we study society, then that means that's something we do. If we say we intervene in society to make society a better place, it's something we do. If we say we educate people to do good research, it's something we do. If we say we study media, it's something we do. With politics, we need to be a bit careful because we are not in any way politically affiliated, as you might naturally understand, but we are also politically aware people. So we are kind of a species that does what they say and say what they do. In terms of research and science, academia, as I already said, that means that we start off very early with research-oriented learning. Research-oriented learning means that you learn not only from good books. Let's say this is pure coincidence. It's just a big book. 7 plots, 7 basic plots. It's a book that explains how you can tell a story. This is the science of telling a story. You can study this book, maybe not, maybe it's not your field of interest, but could happen in the context of media. But then I would ask you the question, so how would you tell a story? And maybe even I will be watching Finn how he reports about his research project, and we'll look for his sense of narratives. So does he tell a story? Is there a plot in what he's saying? I'll be interested in seeing that. So when we do research in our learning process, that means obviously we first need to be equipped with basic necessary instruments of research. That means we need to know the basics of our disciplines, which means in SMP in the first year, we study the general theoretic, general knowledge of sociology, of political science, and of media science. But once we've done that, and we've also started with the methodology, and we've learned about quantitative and qualitative methods, in the second year, we move on to not only study specific societal problems and political issues, but we also study them in actual research. And we carry that on and professionalize that. We start off in a very guided process with faculty actually showing students step by step how and what to do. But we kind of grow up into people who then, towards the third year, are able to do that on their own and quite independently. Of course, with our guidance and help, but as a responsible part of the academia already, ideally. Now, you will see examples for that from our students who are joining and who are presenting one of their research projects. But you will also see the results of that in one of our alumni who is now with us, Klebe, who will demonstrate how that works for him. But you will also see what kind of research we are doing in our professional context as faculty. So, that being said, let's get into it, and I would ask everybody to introduce themselves briefly, which I think I haven't done for myself, so I will very quickly introduce myself. My name is Jakob Fruchtmann. I'm the study program coordinator of SMP. I am faculty of the BIGS program of PhD students, and I'm a sociologist. I'm interested in media sociology and economic sociology, as well as political sociology. Now, who wants to go and first present their research project? Maybe Franzi, you take over from here.
Of course. Then Finn and I do the presentation together, I assume. My name is Franziska Deutsch. I'm a lecturer in many political science at Jacobs, with an interest in political culture research, political sociology. And I'm a colleague of Jakob Fruchtmann, and with me is a former student of ours and now a dear colleague, Finn Klebe, who, Finn, maybe you just introduce yourself with 3 sentences.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Finn Klebe. I graduated from Jacobs in 2019, so last year, and then went on to do my master's at the University of Oxford in global governance and diplomacy. And yeah, I will be briefly talking about a research project I'm involved in that took off basically during the COVID pandemic.
Exactly, so that's what Finn and I will both do. We cannot show you many results right now because both of our projects, I think, kicked off in April this year. But we just wanted to give you an idea about how one can actually study the effects of the corona pandemic from a political science perspective. In my case, actually, also from a very interdisciplinary perspective. Now, I would like to show you the presentation. I hope this is working. This is usually the point where it gets tricky in terms of online stuff. Can you see a screen? Something? Okay, perfect. I can't hear you because you're all muted, I guess, but I can still see Jakob nodding. Okay, very, very, very briefly. A project that kicked off basically in March, but started, I just checked the dates when I saved all the files basically, that kicked really off in April, is called Values in Crisis. It's a collaborative project together with 5 colleagues. 2 of them are actually still at Jacobs University. Two others are former professors at from Jacobs, and one person is a dear colleague of mine, Jan Eichhorn, is a former student of ours, of our program, and now a lecturer for social policy at the University of Edinburgh. And those of you who are already enrolled, there is no way to escape Jan's presence in our programs. So we always bring him back, and he's also part of that project. So basically, what we were thinking is that if you remember the start of the corona pandemic, at least in Europe, for start February maybe, but starting with the lockdown measures in March and then getting really serious in April, we were wondering what this pandemic actually does to people's core values and their political and social orientations. Now the idea is that values actually, and also people's identities, for example, do not change dramatically very much, but they can change actually, and quite rapidly, if a crisis basically happens, like the corona pandemic. And our question was, and still is, what actually happens to people's and to people's values? How do they respond to those to the pandemic? And there are actually two ideas that we had, that people might feel threatened by this pandemic because it's a threat to people's physical health, it's a threat to their economic well-being, and people might basically turn to what we call conservation values. So something like security, conformity, tradition, something maybe like a strong leader, somebody who can take care of this threat and put something against that. Maybe you also know from research already or from personal experience that sometimes when people feel threatened, very often they turn towards their in-group basically and try to look for somebody they could like a little less outside their own group. So our assumption is that maybe this leads to decreasing outgroup trust, to decreasing tolerance, especially towards diversity, and less solidarity to others because it's everybody first. The other idea that we had is that this might not be the case everywhere, and maybe it's also the exact opposite, because corona, as we see until today, doesn't stop at national borders, right? It's a threat to humankind, as a threat to our global community, to us as humans, and maybe this makes people feel like world citizens more, like people that like we're all in this together, and it's not a threat to you personally or to your special group, but to everybody. And that might lead to people emphasizing values of collaboration, let's say, also international collaboration, and seeing people as equals and so on. And that might be the exact opposite of what I described first. So we have actually two different ideas of what this corona pandemic might have. And you may wonder why we're interested in this, but I guess as people who are interested in politics, you have a hunch basically about this, that it has severe consequences for societies and for politics. So what happens to support for democracy, for example, or for current governments that are in place? What happens to social cohesion, so the way we relate to each other? You've seen probably quite often that corona is described as something that just accelerates certain processes that are already in place. We have a lot of inequality in the world, in many countries already, and this might just lead to even bigger gaps in society. What about confidence in political leaders and political institutions who deal with this pandemic? What about, so a couple of years ago, we saw basically all over the world, over the past years actually, a rise in populism, and Trump and Bolsonaro are actually two great examples for this, how they are dealing with the corona crisis. So what happens actually to authoritarian rule, or to semi-authoritarian rule basically? What happens to right-wing populism as a consequence of this pandemic? Okay. Very briefly, what we've done actually, we have asked 2,000 respondents, participants in Germany and the UK, about their perception of the corona crisis, about their values, about their view on politics and on society. And we have collected data already in April. in the lockdown for Germany and the UK. We want to ask the same people again when this thing is almost over, and we hope so in fall, but let's see. So we call this crisis end in sight. But we are in a still ongoing crisis, so let's see when we can collect more data. And we would like to collect data after everything is back to normal, which will probably be the case only when we have a vaccination and proper treatments everywhere. So our idea is that we ask the same people over a period of, let's say, 1.5 years, starting point lockdown, and then to see how their values and their perception of the crisis and everything I just described changed. So we have these data already. We've seen that in the UK, people are more afraid. So the threat perception is bigger in the UK than in Germany. Finn, who studies in Oxford, will not be surprised about that, actually. And we also see that the British people turned more towards these so-called conservation values that I just described in the beginning. But so we're hoping for more interesting and more comprehensive results in the next months. I just wanted to show you how we are moving forward. We have 2 countries here, as you can see. And in the past couple of weeks, we have collected, actually, we found collaborators from other countries to also collect the same data, basically, same questions everywhere else. We can do a bit of flag guessing now. I don't know if you want to unmute. I just show you, and you tell me which flag you don't know. I had to look up some, to be honest. Okay, that's it. We have, I think, 11 or 12 countries in the meantime. But this is basically, so the same data for all these countries. If maybe some of you can find their home countries or neighboring countries on this flag, it's so cool. Let me just say this: to have Sweden, for example, or Brazil involved, just to see how people respond there. We also have some Eastern European countries, some Western European countries with Japan and South Korea, Asian countries. With Peru and Brazil, South American countries. So pretty cool stuff, we think. The US, we're still waiting for funding to get data for the US, which we of course would like to have. Okay, that was very quick.
By the way, you can always jump in and ask questions. Just unmute yourself and go fire away. Don't hesitate.
That is true. Otherwise, I have prepared a nice speech to introduce Finn and the cool research they are doing in Oxford. When I heard about the project that Finn is involved in, I'm very excited and impressed about what they are doing there. Guys, I cannot, Jakob, you have to monitor maybe the chat or whatever, because I cannot see much when I share the screen in Zoom. I suggest, Jakob, if you don't mind, I suggest that Finn talks about his Corona project, and then maybe we can link these things together, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Jonathan asks, what about African countries? I think that question could also be ended with an exclamation mark. Very good point.
Absolutely, but let me tell you about the hardships, I would say, of doing research in the real world and in real time. All the countries that you see represented here, the colleagues had to find money to conduct these surveys. Within a couple of days or weeks, basically. The reason why we have money for Germany and UK is because all of our colleagues, we pooled basically money together that we have from the university, which is not much basically, but we used this money to kick off the research because we wanted to have data during lockdown. So for Germany, UK, our online panel cost, I think around, let's say 12,000 euros. This is just for one wave for these 2 countries. This is no money that you can easily pay from a research budget, I would say, at any university. So either people have this money somewhere to find this, to provide funding for this research, or you have to write applications, and this usually takes a couple of months, if not years. But then Corona is most likely over and it's too late to collect these data. So we are in contact with a lot of researchers around the world who are willing to use our questionnaire to collect data. Yeah, okay, that's but totally relevant point. Jakob, is there anything else, or shall I repeat my speech to introduce Finn and his cool project?
I think you should introduce Finn now, but I think a very important question, and it's a point of awareness that we value highly, is, and you will see that we live that on Jakob's campus. This awareness for nations that are not so much on everybody's mind if they follow mainstream media, for example. And not having the money to fund research is one of the, unfortunately, things contributing to the vicious cycles of poverty of countries. But this is a huge topic.
Absolutely.
We will discuss
just a quick question. Does anybody, and feel free to unmute yourself, does anybody know the flag below Germany? Anybody? Okay, I think it's Mauritius. I don't know how we managed to collect data there. And who knows somebody who's a principal investigator over there, but just for the sakeness of completion, we can check that later on. I'm not very good with flags, obviously. All right, guys. Next is Finn, who already said that he graduated from our program last year. And when I heard about this very, very, very cool project that Finn was involved in, I was very excited. And it's one of those projects where you think it's so cool that it's out there. I can just repeat myself. Finn, please.
Okay, great. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so basically the Oxford Government Response Tracker, the project that Franziska was talking about, also kind of, was kicked off or was made from scratch during the Corona pandemic, right? Because the idea was that there are countries all over the world. We've all seen that governments are reacting in different ways to the pandemic. We have some countries, like also what Franziska was talking about, Sweden, for instance, interestingly, stayed quite open, didn't really implement a lockdown. Other countries implemented a lockdown. And really things were changing so rapidly over time, especially during the first weeks and months. And the idea with the government response tracker was to really collect this information and to say we have to save it somehow so that we can compare it over time and also see how it's varying across countries. Also within countries, it's interesting, like with federal states, for instance, in Germany here, obviously, we also have even variations by region, right? In the US as well. If you now look at the spiking cases again in many of the states, but some might be might have less cases and might even open up already again. And all those questions basically came up. How can we compare it? How can we save it? And so this database was created, and it was also a project that was basically created without any money in the beginning. Because we had researchers at the Blavatnik School of Government, a department at Oxford, a public policy department, and then emails were sent around just via the school emails and basically waiting for feedback, whether people are interested to collect data. And the data is out there, the data is on the internet, right? Because you can read newspaper articles or you can go to government websites and see how governments were reacting and what kind of policies they were implementing. And it's quite important to do it also right at the moment when it's being implemented, because obviously websites are being updated over time and maybe the data might be lost at some point. So by now, that project has really taken off tremendously. We have more than 200 volunteers now from Oxford University and beyond. Many students in undergrad and graduate, but also PhD students, professors are involved. We have working papers already. Obviously, there will be academic publications coming out. It has been picked up by media. A lot of media used our data as well to actually compare across countries, because what the government response tracker came up with in the end was a stringency index, right? To say which countries are the most stringent on implementing measures, ranging from whether schools are closed, whether you can still use public transportation, economic measures, also very importantly, how were small and medium enterprise businesses supported, for instance, were rents forgiven, and so on and so forth. And all that information really is collected now in the database with so many countries actually that we have information on, more than 160 by now. So also indeed a lot of countries in the global south where it's often maybe more difficult to find data. Which is also interesting because I was also involved obviously in getting some of those data, and you can really see as well the variation between countries, how easy it is to get some of the data. Some people or some countries have their social media accounts where they share everything and then collect everything very neatly online on websites. And then for other countries, you think, is that a website now of the federal ministry actually, or is it some private websites? It's really, there's a lot of variation. And to really put everything in one common database is so important. And it's also something I think, and that was something quite nice as well to see kind of how we were all in a way almost kind of unable to do anything, powerless, I guess, during the pandemic, you can say in some ways. We were all confined to our homes, right? And to be able to do something with purpose in some ways and to contribute to a project like that, I think was really worthwhile and was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was launched in March, as I said, more than 160 countries with 17 indicators. And maybe one last point I can mention, because it was picked up by media around the world, as you could also see. And I think there are really two sides to it, right? Because first, it obviously got a lot of traction, and that's really important because those data is that going out there and is being picked up by people that are discussing about it. WHO and so on, also a lot of governments were discussing about it. But then at the same time, there's also responsibility that comes with it. And as researchers and also social scientists, obviously, not only epidemiologists have to be careful what data they put out there, but social scientists as well. And yeah, funny, as one anecdote, kind of the Indian government, Modi actually shared kind of his remark about getting full marks on the government response tracker on Twitter. And then we kind of had to clarify, or the Blavatnik school had to clarify that we're not saying whether it's successful or not. We're just basically comprising this stringency index. So this is just to show that there is a responsibility to it. We have to be very accurate about what data we put out there that can then be used and so on. So it's really important to have kind of quality assurance as well. And all those things are important. They go on right as things develop in the world and need so many people to get involved in. And this is just to show that you can always do something with great purpose, I think, if you study in the social sciences.
Finn, that sounds really exciting. Just two questions from my side. A, how old are you? And B, when did you graduate?
I think I said that in my short introduction already. No, but I'm now...
damn it! Okay, yeah. Like once you're gone, you think you can go unpunished with criticizing your prof. Okay, you
right.
won't see.
Right. No. I graduated last year from the program from Jacobs, and all the things I've learned, I took further, I guess. So thank you for the great foundation. No, honestly, I think it's really great to see that. I guess in classes sometimes, I mean, classes can be at times boring, I guess, or you have to study for things. But then you see how they're actually practically relevant, right? With the methods you learn and so on. If you then put them into action, it gives the whole, it gives a whole other purpose to it. And it's just great to again see how, especially during this pandemic, there was so much that was going on and so many things that people could get involved in, also in the social sciences.
Thank you, Finn. Now, I would suggest that anybody who is interested in what Finn has to say, or anybody else so far, could just go ahead and ask your questions. Don't be shy. Interrupt us, no problem. Just unmute yourself and speak. Or you can use the chat if you want to. Unless that is the case right now, I would then suggest we move on to the next study. We have a PhD student of mine. So Maria is asking you, Finn, what was your major?
My major was the very program that we're talking about here. It was called differently. So it was integrated social sciences, but it had the same three disciplines basically. And now it's society, media, politics. So. And maybe just to briefly mention again, I think really the interdisciplinarity again that was Franziska talking about is really expressed in the research we're doing, I guess, but also in the classes we're taking. So you get a lot of different vantage points and all those kind of international ideas and issues we're discussing. We're always discussing from very different angles, which I think is very important as well.
Well, was it also Maria who corrected me that I mixed up the Maldives with Mauritius? I'm sorry. A friend of mine always calls this geographically challenged. I apologize. Finn, there's another question to you. How was the process of applying to graduate schools with a degree from Jacobs? I would say smooth, wasn't it? Considering
yeah, of course. No, actually, Jacobs has quite a good reputation. And it's a very small university in Germany. and there are not that many international universities, I guess, in Germany. So it's quite a unique university within Germany for sure. But around the world, I guess, in a lot of graduate schools, it's definitely known. And we have had graduates going on to very high quality institutions from after having graduated from Jacobs.
Nico just commented on that in the chat. I just read.
I mean, this.
Yes, but I'm sure there are. If you have any specific questions about graduate school applications, those kind of things, that Finn is probably also available to tell you also about his cohort and about other people. There's a large alumni network actually.
Jonathan, convinced, very interesting work, Finn. I totally agree. By the way, if you feel now kind of over-impressed, don't let this give you the wrong feelings. Some people are very interested and passionate about research. Are there research opportunities for undergrads? The question from Yen Ling. Well, most certainly. We have the first year where you are disciplined to our disciplines, which is basically learning the basics. But once we've got that down, we want you to learn by doing research, because we believe that this is a very efficient way of learning. So this learning by doing helps you not only to learn quicker, it is more fun, and it gives you more of a feeling of agency and of actually not, reading the theory in the book, but of actually doing science. And I think that is a very promising and successful, as you see in the example of Finn, concept. But also, that means that you don't have to do research. So you have all the opportunity of doing research, and you have to learn the basics of doing research. But if you're more interested in doing social interventions, or more interested in doing media projects, as long as this is connected to our academic world, it is very welcome, and you are free, not only free, you are invited to develop your own profile. And we take pride in tailoring to fit. So a person like Finn gets exactly that kind of, I was going to pun on Finnish, but I won't say that. Of study program that is extremely nerdy, if you may, and extremely focused on research. But this can also be somebody graduating with a podcast. This can also be somebody graduating with a startup. The amount of passion and the connection of our science to real life is what we are all about. So that means it very much depends on you, what you are passionate about and where you are going. And if it fits into the general framework of our study program, we try to make that happen.
Yeah, Jakob, I think we need to and we want to continue. I just would like to say one more sentence on everybody who's frightened now after listening to, or positively impressed, but in a scary way, by Finn's presentation. And so I remember meeting Finn in the very first year, and I can assure you that he was a very normal guy, really normal, shy, right, Finn? So
very shy.
totally, totally normal. Just that you know, so nothing to be scared about.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Nicole. We're not trying to over-impress you. This is what really is going on, and we're excited about it. So, but we have totally normal students too. So let's move on. Maybe Alyona wants to present our project. That's an article we're working on. We're just actually, the deadline is when, Alyona?
It's on Friday.
Oh my God.
We have to submit by Friday.
That's so typical. I mean, this is part of our study program, is the real life experience of here, there you go. So if you are late with handing in your paper, you are absolutely not alone. And unfortunately, with some people like me, it seems to never end. So Alyona, what are we writing about?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Alyona Khaptsova. I'm a PhD student and I didn't study the program and I didn't graduate from it, but I'm involved in helping you guys in your research projects and also help with some teaching and also finding and tailoring the materials that you could find useful in your studies. And I'm a PhD student and Jakob Fruchtman is my first supervisor. And Franziska Deutsch is a coordinator of the graduate school where I study, so she also knows a lot about my project. And today I'm sharing with you the part that I'm working very closely with Jakob. And that part is about the Olympic Games. And more precisely, it is about what the Olympic Games actually mean to people. So we all know that it's a sports event. It's a very important event in a career of every athlete. To many athletes, it happens only once in their lives. They prepare for it their entire life. The question is, why should everyone else care? There are hundreds and thousands of sports events happening every month all over the world. But the Olympic Games is something that happens only once in 4 years, and the entire planet, many millions of people stop doing anything, and they just watch the sports that they are never interested in, and they know nothing about and don't understand the rules. So what's the point? Why? And this is what the study is about. So if we look at the Olympics as a phenomenon, we will see that there are layers of meanings, of different meanings, and those meanings is what people can find interesting for themselves, something that appeals to them. So let's uncover this onion together. So what do we have first? First, we have the official organizers of the event, the International Olympic Committee. The Olympic Games, as like the modern Olympic movement, exists for more than 100 years. It has a manifesto, it has a charter, it has values, it has official agenda. And that official agenda says that the main reason why athletes are meeting together once in 4 years is that the best athletes of their countries are coming together to show and to celebrate the unity of mind and body. And the meaning for everyone else is to feel that they are citizens of the world. The event, the official agenda of the Games, is to bring the values of universalism, the sense of commonality, the sense of internationalism, and to bring people together so that while watching the Olympic Games, people are no longer feeling just connected to their town or to their country, but they're citizens of the world. This is what the International Olympic Committee wants us to feel. There is another perspective. They're also participating countries, and they have a completely different story to tell. They actually have an unofficial medal count. So they're measuring which country has more medals than other. And the more medals your country has, the better your country is. And that somehow also transmitted all other levels. So it's better, it's more moral, it's more beautiful, stronger, it's richer, wealthier, it produces more talents. So it's just simply a better country than everyone else. And this is a completely different story for those people who are interested in this in-country competition. They don't feel like citizens of the world. They feel very much like citizens of their own country. They don't care about everyone else. They must feel good about themselves. Now, this is like two tendencies that are reoccurring around the globe to different extent. But if we look at every society separately, we will see that every country has its own history of participating in the Olympics. Some country had an experience of hosting the event. They still have the stadium. They still have the facilities. Some of them still remember their heroes. So for some countries, it is a sad story. For other countries, it is a very happy story, and they want to remember about it, and they still believe it is a good thing. So what happens there? So in our case, what Jakob and I did, we were interested in Russia. We wanted to know how people in Russia understand what the Olympic Games are. And in Russia, there is a very strong sense of traditionalism. So when it comes to the Olympics, people do not think about here and now. They think about the history. They think about what was happening. So Moscow hosted the games in the 1980s, and the stadium is still there, and it is still considered a good event. And this is very interesting because, in fact, the Olympics of the Soviet Union was boycotted by, I think, 80 countries. So there was like very, very limited number of participants there. But people in Russia still think it was a great thing to do. They were still happy to, meet all those people and to welcome them. And this is one of their things, this nostalgic sense of tradition is still there. So what we did, we wanted to know, how do the three meanings, are they coexisting? Are they competing? Is there one dominant, or is it some weird mix of those? So what we did is that we had a study with more than 400 people participating. And you know what we found? We found that those three meanings are actually coexisting. But for different people, depending on how they in general see the world, the weight of those different meanings would be different. So for people who are in general more concerned about the global world and they're seeing themselves as global citizens, Olympics is the embodiment of this internationalism. They're also aware that there is some nationalistic part of it. They're also aware of the traditions, but universalism is the most important thing. For people who are very much in favor of feeling that their country is the greatest one in the world, the Olympic Games will be about that. That's a proof that their country is great when it scores the medal, and they're very much upset and feel that the world is unfair if they're not getting new medals. And the same happens to people who visit tradition. So the importance of our study is that we're showing how complex the meanings are and how people with different worldviews can have completely different interpretations of the same event and object. So this is not about the clash of values, but this is more about their complexity of interpretations and meanings. So this is what we did.
Thank you, Alyona. Well, I am totally aghast. I know Alyona as a very good statistician. She's excellent with statistics and methods, really, really good, really sharp, way better than I am. This is the first time I heard you tell a story, and you're a good storyteller. Speaking about this narratives, and we're training this on the article, how to write an article so that it's fun to read and draws the reader in. That even had influence on the peer reviewers, remember? It's quite interesting. You did a very good job at this. I think all of the students understood what's going on. Can you please replicate this study for the Soccer World Cup in Germany? We should.
I think it cannot be a direct replication because soccer is a slightly different thing and also has a different meaning in Germany than, for example, in other countries. So I guess Germany has a stronger affinity to football than to soccer than some other nations. So it would be.
So go ahead and ask your questions. This is your chance to talk to somebody who's an accomplished scientist, but is still quite close to your experience, closer at least than I am. What is it like to be a scientist, for example? And you can unmute. Don't be shy. Go ahead. Speak up.
Alyona, just to say that this is such a cool project. Okay. I try to apply this to myself and my own transformation because I consider myself a very open-minded world citizen-like person, but not when it comes to the Soccer World Cup or to the Olympic Games, where I find myself getting up in the middle of the night to watch curling. Where Germany is not even participating. You know what curling is, right? So that's So
Jonathan absolutely agrees with you. He says, citizens of the world idea is far off from reality. I agree more with the idea that is why countries to compete without guns. This, Alyona, would you care to answer that argument?
Well, the question about the citizen of the world is an outdated idea, and it's more about the competition. So that is the matter of the perception. So it is like that for you, but it isn't like that for me. And it's not that one of us is right or wrong. It's like both of us are right, but in our own worlds. So this is one part. So the coexistence of different meanings, the coexistence of different meanings is something that is, well, for now, is largely missing from the research. So all of us can, in a way, feel it can be there, or it can be confusing. It can be, for some people, it can be even disturbing because they don't want to have this complex world. But now it's more and more getting to research. And for example, our project is one of the first one to try it, to show it. I see there's also a question from Benedict. How was the study administered, and what questions were asked to the participants? Oh, this is an interesting technical part, because we were not asking, some questions we were not asking directly. And there is one good reason for that. So the study was administered in Russia. And in Russia, people are hesitant to talk about politics. So whenever you have a sense that there is anything will be about political, people don't want to talk to you. So we had to be very, very smart in how do we ask it. So we're asking it indirectly. We had one question was about, like some questions were about, do you find the Olympic Games and the Olympic movement as a good thing or a bad thing? Then we had certain questions about that were not compulsory, about how do you feel about your country? Are you strongly attached? Are you proud to be the citizen? If people were citizens, then are you feeling proud when you see sport successes of the country? And then there were also questions about values, and values is precisely what makes us, is precisely what sets our worldview. The way it's a filter that makes us seeing things in different through different lenses. So if there are values, and this is what, for example, Franziska is doing with her value project. It's the same theory. So there are values of universalism that make you more seeing things in this sense of equality, and you're asking yourself, is it what I see, or is it like the events of the world? Are they making the world more equal or less equal? And depending on that, and depending on the answer, you will like them or dislike them. If you're more about a competitive guy, then you would see the world as like, is the thing making me better than others or not? And if it doesn't make you better, then you don't like it. If it helps you in any way to feel better than others, then you do like it. For traditions, there is also a separate value for that, of course. So you evaluate it in a way, is it a traditional thing or not? So this is one thing. Yeah, we looked at the statistical relationship. This particular method is called structural equation modeling. It's an extension of regression analysis, and that's technical details that you will learn in the methods courses later.
So Nicole asks for methodological questions for our control variables we took into account. And Руно Golden, кажется, русскоязычный, и спрашивает, какие еще регионы вы учитывали, кроме Москвы? Which region for Moscow?
Okay, yeah. So first about the Moscow. So we were not focused on Moscow. People were coming from all over the place. So that wasn't the thing. But we did not really control it because there was no variance between the regions and their answers. We did control for each gender, and that particular analysis we did not include in the analysis people who were not citizens, because one of the variables that we were interested in is like, are you proud to be a citizen of the country, which makes no sense to ask if the person is not a citizen. So the data...
Is the data qualitative, asks Nicole. No, this is a quantitative study, but it was told so beautifully by Alyona that it sounds like a qualitative study. It actually sounds like a participant observation, but it really is very, very mathematic, very quantitative, and very nerdy. We won't get into the details of that. Thank you, Bruno. We need to move on to students, because I think it's very important that students have a word in how we run our study program too, by the way, and how and which kind of research we do. They actually do have a say because they do research themselves. So I would like to ask Renja and Emilia to quickly talk about their second year project, which is rather typical for something you would do, not as like the final product of your studies, but as something that you do in your second year.
Okay. Hi, everyone. First of all, a big thank you to all of you. It was really interesting to kind of get more information about what you are doing. And for example, maybe I can start with introducing myself. So I'm now, I would say, a third year, like not anymore second year. I finished my second year and now I'm gonna be a third year. And I'm studying also integrated social sciences, which is the program Society, Media and Politics. And yeah, maybe like I'm going to be next year, for example, in Uppsala. So like we have in the 5th semester the opportunity to go abroad. And Renja, maybe you can see, or you can say something where you are going and who you are. And yeah.
Hello, I'm Renja. I'm the same as Amelia. I'm also currently in now going to be a third year integrated social science student, but I'm going to spend my 5th semester in South Korea if everything goes well. And then in the 6th semester writing my bachelor thesis for social sciences. So, and like last year, Emilia and I conducted a research which you can just like quickly introduce.
Yes, okay, perfect. I'm just gonna share my laptop now and my screen now. I hope it's working. Can you all see my screen? Yes, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so maybe now, first of all, like how the course is called. The course is called Communication, Culture and Digitization. And it was basically like split into 2 kind of courses. So first of all, we had one in our 3rd semester and then the next one in our 4th semester. And I think it was really great because it was the first course where I felt, or where I had the feeling, where we had a lot of freedom and a lot of like we could just be as creative as we wanted to be. And that's something great where Professor Fruchtmann is supporting us and gives us input, ideas. And so like what you can see now, usually we also had text. So it was kind of a combination of, this was like the structure that we had. So those are Instagram posts, and our research question that we conducted was Instagram and gender performativity of females. Is there a relationship between the pictures on Finsta and Rinsta? And what is the difference between the presentation of gender on both? And yeah, first of all, I would say we were kind of interested, or we started with Goffman, who is a familiar name in, he usually kind of addresses questions, or he has, for example, where it's called the role play. So if you are acting in front of other people, you sometimes have the feeling that you are putting on a mask, and then you're not the person that you want to be. And this is how we kind of developed our research further. And this is also why you can see the mask everywhere. But yeah, this is, I think, about the process and everything. Renja is going to continue. And yeah, this was more now about motivation and why we did it. And I think also, like, maybe also what's important is that, because you also want to know how the course is structured, how the climate is in those courses, because another great thing is we were, I think, a total of 10 to 15 people in the course. So Professor Fruchtmann really took the time to talk with each one individually, and to we were all, like, it was possible to make discussions in a very small group, so you could also see how other projects are going, and you were also kind of involved in those projects because you could give them advices and you could work on further on other projects then automatically. But this is like now kind of how or why we did our project, and especially gender, or because in the end we focused on female presentation or gender performativity of females on Instagram, because we realized that there was a gender, like there was kind of a gap of research which was not really seen in this field. And we had for us, it was kind of the impression that nowadays, especially, there are trends, or you can see differences between finsta and rinsta. Maybe first of all, to like explain what finsta and rinsta is. So finsta is the Instagram where you have a lot of followers. It's the one that you did mostly the primary Instagram account. And then you also, like, the trend that is seen now more often is that people have a finsta, which means they have a finsta for close friends. And yeah, maybe now Renja can tell you more about the process and the results of our study.
So basically what you right now see on the screen are some posts we posted on Instagram in our third semester, where we basically built the foundation for our whole research project, and looked at the theoretical background as well as the finding our method and sample size and sample. And then in the fourth semester, we conducted the research. And now in the pictures, we posted pictures that we thought we were fitting to what we thought about during the process. And then like in the comments, we basically posted a background story and talked about where we are right now with our research. And if you want to look that up, the Instagram is called JUB_CCD, if I'm not mistaken. And they're also the projects of other students from that course. And with the method, we decided on a picture analysis. So we had 4 participants, and Professor Fortman also sent the Instagram name right now in the chat. And yeah, we had 4 participants from different continents as well. And we took 20 pictures of each their finsta and rinsta. So the open account and the private account, which we had access to, which we asked them for. And there we did the picture analysis and then also qualitative interviews in order to understand the motivation from our participants. And in order to measure the female in the pictures, we have decided on female stereotypes at the beginning of our research, which we discussed first and like researched and looked at whether they have a high valence, if you can say so. And afterwards, we, like in the fourth semester, when we conducted the research, we looked whether each stereotype was featured in each picture. And in the end, we have written a research report on which we are currently still working on, since we are also planning on maybe publishing it with a further analysis and more in-depth interviews in order to like gain more and know more about the field we were researching. And we also need to do that since our sample of 4 people is pretty small, and we are careful with generalizing the results, since we have also had problems with ethical challenges, that we both are pretty close to our participants. So most of them are close friends of ours, which influenced us maybe. We're kind of biased a little bit, but not too much. But and then as a result, we have found that out of the 4 participants, 3 were actually presenting themselves in a stereotypical, more female way on the rinsta in comparison to the finsta. So in the private, they weren't as stereotypically female. But there was also 1 participant which does not necessarily support our hypothesis that people present themselves, or like females present themselves stereotypically more female on an open and public account. And yeah, so generally, like, now we are currently still working on that project, and even though the course has finished. But does anybody have maybe some questions about our research or anything else maybe?
Thank you very much, Renja and Amelia. And also, yeah, if you have questions about what it feels like to be studying now, is a good time to ask. Also, maybe exchange addresses so you can get the answer they give when I'm not listening. But just for your information, this was a full seminar that went over 2 semesters, so it was 2 half seminars. It took quite a while, and we took our time to first get acquainted with the scientific side of how do social media work, what kind of different theoretical aspects need to be learned in that context, and so we achieved that, and we in parallel developed questions and thought about methods of how you can study that. And so this is something where you get step by step, we take you kind of by the hand and lead you through the process, while trying to give you as much freedom as possible to really study what you are interested in. Now, the thing you need to know is we have interesting comments already. Yeah, people like it. So is it common to do group research projects? Is a question by Sophie.
Maybe I can answer this. I would say it's really, really, really common to do group research projects. I think it's even encouraged. Of course, every person can choose, and the person could also work by themselves. But I think like also because you don't only have group projects in this program, you have group projects in many different programs, I would say. So I would say that's something that is really, really great about Jacobs. And especially here we have not only like when you work in political debates, it's very relevant to discuss this with other people, but also in sociology or media, I would say.
So Franziska is barging in. Why weren't you able to get a larger sample size? Jonathan asks, and that's a very smart question. Chose a very relevant topic. This is common. Never even thought of it that way. Why only 4?
I think one of our main problems was also to gain the access and also maybe to say the trust of the participant.
Oh, Renja, you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree, I would say. So like the problem was, despite Corona and some cancellations, I think like it wasn't that personal. And also like, first of all, you need to have access from a lot of people on their Finsta. And then Finsta always means it's very private because they only want their close friends exactly to have access to it. So we asked many people, but then it's of course their decision of either accepting or denying. So like it's difficult, I think, in this research topic to get a large sample size, but that's what we're planning on doing right now to extend, and yeah, maybe we'll have more open-minded people that are accepting it.
Jonathan is already all into the debate. Interesting questions. Amelia Hardeman asked, how did you come up with this topic for the research? Is it common to have a Finsta in your personal circle?
I would say we kind of came up with it. I mean, the course was kind of focused on the communication part, and we kind of focused on Instagram, most people that were in this course, I think. And then you can ask a lot of different questions. I think the study from Shanti, or was it, I think from Shanti and Rabi was also really interesting, where they also talked about the mental health and what is happening when you are talking about Instagram, and what influences or what effects it has. But I think it's really like common, but then you just think of, okay, what interests you the most? And also we get a lot of material, a lot of readings. And when you read, for example, Judith Butler, or when you read Goffman, like that happens most of the times to me, that I think like, oh, that's interesting. And then you take this like kind of idea further, and then you think, oh, and maybe I can combine it with this. And that is how you come up, I think, with this research question.
You are making me a happy man, because that's what we're about, like taking theory as something that has a direct, connection to our lives and carries meaning in the real sense. So how many other projects regarding social sciences have you done during your time at Jacobs, is a question Mark Orwell asks.
Hello again. Sorry, I think my internet like just stopped working. I think like we have done several research projects up until this point for several other courses as well. But I think if you would compare the mass and in-depth you do for the research projects, I would say that this one might be the longest we have conducted so far, because first of all, it's over 2 semesters, so you have time to like properly prepare the research and then the project, and then properly conduct it. Whilst with the other ones, it's mostly conducted throughout the semester. So you learn like the basics at the beginning of the year or of the semester, and then you conduct your own research. But I've done at least, okay, I couldn't pinpoint a number, but like I've done some research projects.
Emilia implied that there were too many by doing this, I think.
So,
can there ever be too many?
We are running out of time a bit. Also typical for us. We have always have more to talk about than we have time. One more question maybe was that was asked about the media center. So the SMP Media Center is something we're starting right now. This semester we've kind of started up. I wrote you the smp.mc is the Insta where you find some of the things we've done. There's some of the projects, and you will find publications over the summer to follow what we do, what our students do, meet some of our students, see what some of our science projects are. The idea of the SMP Media Center is that, as I said, we don't only study sociology, we do sociology. We don't only study media, we do media. And that means that one of the forms of assessment in our study program is to do a media project, which means in some of the, or many of the courses that we offer, you have the opportunity to, instead of doing a presentation or writing an essay, which of course are skills you will also have to learn, you can choose to do a media project. In this specific case, you saw the pictures from Instagram posts but they had actually quite intelligent text. So they were actually like little essays with lots of scientific literature and well researched, but also nicely done aesthetically in combining visuals and text in a really intelligent way. So take a look at it if you go to the 2 Instagram links. Maybe make a point of taking the note now, because once we stop the sessions, this will be gone. So it was, what was yours again? CCD _JUB?
No, the other way around. JUB underscore
and the other
underline.
one is smp.mc, where you find some of the projects. Now, this being a form of serious media projects like videos and animations, some of which will be published soon on. Also, we're starting a YouTube channel. Anyway, the meaning of the SMP Media Center is that we provide you with the equipment and the know-how to guide you through the process of developing media skills if you wish to learn And this is, in my opinion, a very important factor for future labor markets in almost anything you want to do. One of the big questions you will be asked is so could you do a little animation about it? Could you do a video about it? Could you do a post about it? Go ahead and post that on Instagram and so on. So you need to be knowledgeable about that in future labor markets, even today, I would claim. So we offer this possibility to train you in that. And so if you have a media project idea and want to realize that, you can come to the Media Center, get the equipment and the know-how, and the people who work there will help you realize your project. So what does the course look like as a minor? That's Jonathan asking, maybe last question. Well, the course can be taken in both, this specific course, both minor and major. That will not change the format of the course. Straightforward question, straightforward answer. So I hope this was interesting to you. It was fun to me. It was fun to see some of the old guys again. Finn, really nice to meet you again. And somehow it turns out that when SMP people meet, they have fun and do meaningful stuff. I had the impression of, I had both in this session. I hope you did so too. And basically that's it. Do not hesitate to contact me. Write me, drop an email, ask for a meeting. Any of our faculty, any of our students, you can also contact me if you want. You can ask for a meeting with students. If you want peer consultations, we have a study buddy program. So go ahead and just drop us a line and we'll come back at you. So many people saying thanks. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully see you soon on campus. Bye-bye.
Feel also free to reach out to me, even if I'm not a current student anymore, but concerning, I don't know, graduate application, even though that might still be further down the line, but whatever experiences, alumni networks and so on, just reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk as well.
Guys, Finn submitted his master thesis yesterday. He has time now.
Congratulations! Woohoo! Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.